Hello everyone and welcome back to Sports Today. You'd known for a fact that today is of course Super Sunday as far as the Cricket World Cup, the ICC T20 World Cup is concerned. But don't forget there's a lot of other action that is also going to be taking place. Remember, there's some major football matches, there's an interesting tennis match set to take place here today. Lots of stuff, but beyond just everything else that is happening, we have to start with of course focusing on the T20 World Cup, because man oh man, what a start we've had to the morning. South Africa were favourites to seal their spot in the semis, but an inexplicable loss to Netherlands has now in fact actually undone their hopes of making it to the semi-finals. The only way that the Proteas can in fact make it to the semis is if the match between Pakistan and Bangladesh gets washed out, and if you've been seeing the weather over there is beautifully sunny, bright, no chance of rain. So South Africa all but out, and it is something that people were wondering what exactly Temba Bavuma would have to say afterwards, because again, South Africa were in such a good position when it came to actually sealing their spot in the semis. Many saw them as dark horses. Unfortunately, they did what they do best, and that is fall short or come up short at the big stage when the lights are shining brightest. And naturally, people would have some interest in what exactly it is that Bavuma had to say. I'll just go over it quickly. He said that, look, the loss is very, very disappointing, and we played really well before this game, and we knew that this particular game was a must-win encounter, and we faltered when it mattered. Again, it's very, very hard to swallow this loss. He also did take some degree of blame for the loss, not just due to the fact that of course his batting hadn't been up to the mark. Except for that one game, he didn't really bat well. He did say that you can pick out a lot of things when you lose the way we did, saying firstly I have to blame myself with the toss, because I chose to win the toss. I won the toss and I then chose to bowl first, he's saying. And then to make things worse, the kind of start that we let them get off to and then score 158, we have a lot of thinking to do. Unfortunately, it does tie into, as I said, South Africa's broader history when it comes to faltering at the big stage. It's not a good look for them in that regard, because they do have this tendency of just slipping up when it matters the most. It's happened yet again. No matter the generations of players change, that trait remains and probably will until they finally are able to break the jinx and win that big one. But enough about the South Africans for now. Let's focus on the team that actually won the match. And Netherlands captain Scott Edwards, he was, he seemed lost for words almost at one point. In fact, he literally started his post-match presentation by saying that, look, I'm lost for words. The entire match went so fast, and he said that this is going to take some time to actually take in, because we weren't expecting this. I mean, sure, we were competing, but it is still a big deal to beat South Africa, he's saying, and we're used to the conditions, the playing conditions, the way they are, because they're like this in the Netherlands. And most importantly, he said that once we got to the 160 mark and they got to 158, he's saying that we were pretty confident that we were able to defend this, and he said that it's a great experience for all of us, and of course that it is a massive day for Netherlands cricket. Now, Netherlands do have this tendency sometimes of being able to spring an upset every now and again, so you can't help but actually feel really good for them. And of course, as things stand, they're currently 5th in the table, so that would actually help them come closer to qualification for the next edition of the tournament, which, as we know, will be taking place in 2024. So it's actually a big deal for Netherlands, this win. Even though it meant nothing to them in terms of their semis qualification, it's still a very big win, so you can't help but actually feel really happy for the underdogs in this particular case. Now, from the match itself, I think for me, if you ask me what the key moment was, I'd point out this particular moment. It was the moment when Roelof van der Merwe took the catch that dismissed David Miller, and what a catch it was. If you can see the picture itself, you can see that he's basically slid down, he's taken the catch whilst half unsighted. It was a beautiful catch, and understandably the moment has gone viral. If you can go ahead and check out the clip, the ICC and the T20 World Cup have posted it on their socials. It's everywhere. It's amazing. It's the kind of catch that you wouldn't expect a veteran to be taking as easily as he did, but the fact is he still managed to pull it off. And what made the moment even more bittersweet in many ways is the fact that Van der Merwe, you'd remember, is actually a player who was once capped by South Africa. He played regularly for them. Now it's turning out for the Netherlands, and arguably his catch was one of the main reasons why South Africa are no longer in the tournament. Moving our attention on from, of course, the T20 World Cup to sports beyond that, Gerard Pique, you remember, he announced his retirement just this earlier, a couple of days back. And it was a bit of a surprise when the Barcelona and, from a Spain defender actually announced his retirement, because there was no indication whatsoever was coming. His current contract ran till the end of the 2024 season, so it was expected that he'll play on till at least then, but he announced his retirement and played his last game at the Camp Nou against Almeria. Again, it wasn't a spectacular match or anything. Neither was the result an upset. Barcelona won 2-0. But what really caught the attention of everyone was the speech that Pique had. And believe me, if you haven't seen it, I would recommend you go and check it out. Pique was fighting back tears for most of it, and very unsuccessfully, I might add, because there were times when he was so choked up that he had to stop speaking and actually take a moment to compose himself. Very heartwarming, and it shows you just how much the club of Barcelona meant to Pique. Remember, he's a boyhood Barcelona fan. He spent pretty much his entire club career with the club, won everything that there is to be won with the team. So naturally, the moment meant a lot to him, and it's probably one of the most emotional football farewells that I've seen in a while. As expected, he's someone who's a club legend and indeed a football legend. Check out the video if you haven't. I think this is one of the more emotional Barca farewells since, of course, Leo Messi left them at the end of last season. Sticking to football news, this man, Erling Haaland, cannot stop scoring. Even if he's coming off the bench, the man just finds himself in the positions to actually influence games with his ability to score goals. Now, you remember that, of course, Haaland had been a bit of an injury doubt going into their match against Fulham, but he was named on the bench and he came off the bench to score a late penalty in what was a pretty intensely competed game. Remember, João Cancelo ended up getting sent off, and you had about 5 or 6 yellow cards which were shown through the game. So it was a pretty closely contested game. Haaland was against the difference maker. They got a late penalty. Haaland stepped up. It just about went under Berlino's body, but it went in, and this man just cannot stop doing it. He can't stop scoring, and as things stand, City are now top of the Premier League table. That might be temporary given Arsenal still have a game to play, but it does show that City cannot be counted out of the title fight, at least not yet. And speaking of Arsenal, they will be playing a massive match today. Don't forget, they'll be traveling to Stamford Bridge. Pretty close club for them, considering Chelsea and Arsenal are both London clubs. So Arsenal will be having an away game against Chelsea. It's always a spicy encounter, but in this case, it's spicy for more reasons than one. Former Arsenal captain Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang will now be turning on for Chelsea. How and when he can influence the game is something that everyone will be keeping their eye on. But perhaps more importantly, Chelsea are coming off an absolute shellacking in their last Premier League encounter against Brighton. They lost 4-1. Arsenal would think they're ripe for the picking, but this Chelsea side can be a bit inconsistent, so you don't really know which side is turning up. Plus, it is a home match, the crowd are going to be right behind them, so I'm expecting a really good game. But that isn't the only big game we can look forward to today, because you'll also have Tottenham Hotspur hosting Liverpool. Now again, both of these teams are clubs in some degrees of turmoil. Yes, Spurs have had better results lately, but there always seems to be the feeling that they're probably not playing up to their potential, and that perhaps they aren't actually doing as well as they should be doing. Exact same thing can be said about Liverpool. They've been really underwhelming, especially in the league. Remember, they lost back-to-back games to relegation strugglers. They've had real problems, currently way outside the Champions League spots. So this is going to be a hotly contested game, not just because, of course, both of them are top teams. Remember, they played the final of the 2019 Champions League, but the fact is both of these teams desperately need a win, but only one can emerge with the win. Hopefully it's not a draw. I don't anticipate it being one, but let's see what happens. Switching sports, in tennis news, Novak Djokovic will be eyeing a record-extending 7th Paris Masters title today when he'll take on Holger Rune of Norway. Now again, Rune making it this far is a bit of an upset, because remember, he was supposed to be facing Carlos Alcaraz in the quarterfinals, and they did, but Alcaraz ended up retiring due to an injury. Holger Rune then actually upset Felix Auger-Aliassime and broke his 16-match winning streak, and now has a date with this man. Of course, Djokovic would be the overwhelming favorite, and it would help him take some momentum into the year-enders, the ATP finals, which will of course be competed in later this month. November 13th, if I'm not wrong, is when it is starting, so do keep an eye out for that as well. And Djokovic is showing that despite whatever problems he may have been having with regards to competing in tournaments due to his vaccination status, he's still a force on the court, and it will be very interesting to watch if he can actually get that record equaling 7th Paris Masters title. And that's the end of the update for today. Thank you all so much for joining us. Again, don't forget that if you enjoy what it is that we do, you can like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and tap that bell icon if you haven't already. And please don't forget to leave us a comment. Which sporting event did you enjoy most recently, and what did you think of South Africa's latest choke? Do let us know. And of course, you can also find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And last but not least, don't forget to download the AajTak app. Thank you all for joining us. As always, I've been Shane Reyes, and I hope to see you all with us through the day. Big day, lots of stuff going on. But for now, goodbye.